Okay, well, you'll be happy to know, Larissa, that today I have actually genuinely sort of somewhat done the drink theme thing.
You did?
So, since we're talking about, well, since I'm arguing, I don't know how to put this. Since we're talking about Parks and Rec, and The Office, but since we're talking about Parks and Rec, I chose the sugary drink in my fridge, a Smirnoff.
Perfect.
And my snack, a Kit Kat.
Oh, you got a snack too?
That's mostly because I didn't eat. Oh, I method acted today too. All my meals were terrible for me.
Oh, perfect.
I ate. Oh,
like a
wait.
Pawnee citizen?
I did eat a carrot muffin, so I did have some health food. But
okay.
lunch was Cheetos.
But you did eat the carrot.
And dinner was hickory sticks. And the Kit Kat's been throughout the day.
I'm sure your brain will be functioning at 100%.
I've had a lot of Coke today too, not cocaine, Coca-Cola. I just want you to know how I've been method acting throughout this day in order to...
You're treating yourself terribly.
Hey, I had a carrot muffin.
Well, then you didn't method act. You either commit fully or you just treated yourself terribly.
Okay, Larissa, my body is a temple.
And you succeeded at neither, it sounds like.
My body is a temple and it must be treated right.
Okay, well, I think you did better than I did because I looked up the recipe for what they called snake juice and did not like it. And then I found this in my fridge. And when I was doing my research, I thought this is from that still of the episode where Jim gives this to Pam in the Secret Santa, and there's like little secret special things inside. And my secret special thing is a Coke and vodka. It's going to spill. But it isn't there.
It's alcohol.
Yeah.
I just now realized I don't like this Smirnoff Ice, but I will drink all of it.
Mine's actually delicious.
Well, I'm jealous. I tried to find something pink because I felt like rosé would have been right up Leslie's alley, but alas, I did not. I didn't research what they drink, to be also clear.
I don't think there's like a thing that they drink. I know there's like the snake juice episode. Oh, and the other one I was thinking of was there's like the Awesome Blossom. But again, they're not real drinks, so I'm not really capable of making that. But alas.
Anyways.
We're here anyways. Do we want to introduce Luke or no?
Yeah, let's introduce Luke. Sorry, I got right into that. I just got really excited about the drink thing.
Let's keep that take in where I'm like, did we talk about Luke or not?
Just like midway through.
For everyone that thinks that we're super cute but hates the quality of these podcasts, you'll be excited and happy to know that we've taken on a producer to keep us in line and keep things looking better and sounding better and overall just being better. Yeah, making us better human beings.
Is that he has a moral obligation in this job too?
Yeah, like we are holding his family hostage, and if he doesn't do a good job, they will be executed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks to Luke for stepping in and taking some reins on this. And yeah, I hope he especially likes this episode. Because it'll be a long recording session if he does not.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't hate us by the end of this. It's possible. It's all possible. Never say never, baby.
He'll hate one of us. That's for sure, because I think we're going to have a little bit of debate going on as we are discussing two shows, and you know that everything always has to be in competition with one another.
I love and hate with the same amount of energy, and that's how I feel about both of these shows. So I will be very passionate this episode, as I realized as I was writing my notes.
That's good to hear. Glad there'll be some unchecked rage.
Yeah.
As we go into it.
Maybe checked.
Just checked. Do you want to start off with, like, I guess we can talk about a little bit where they came from and their significance?
Yeah.
Just to us, not to the world, but.
Well, I guess I'll just like say this sentence. Larissa and I are talking about The Office and Parks and Rec, and I know I sort of said it earlier.
Oh, did we not introduce
just in
that?
case we didn't say like that specifically.
Read the title of the video if you want to know what it's about. I don't know.
Don't listen to us. We're just like halfway through talking about one show, and they're like, "What?" Yeah. Anyway.
A two sides of the same coin episode where we
one of the shows I enjoy.
So Becca, you'll be talking about I think Parks and Rec, and I'll be talking about I'll first be shitting on you for everything you have to say about that, and then I will be talking about The Office. Well, yeah, okay. I think it's suitable because The Office came out. It's kind of like the older sibling to Parks and Rec, and I think in a lot of ways I'm a mentor and wise older figure in your life.
I would never call you wise or a mentor. Old, sure.
I got my best mentor.
Next Christmas.
I'm just kidding. I don't actually hate Parks and Rec that much.
Oh, I genuinely do hate The Office a little bit. And I hope that by the end of this episode, people hate me for it. Oh, I mean, that I can convince you to agree with me. My intention going into this is I make enemies. I start a war. I destroy lives.
Okay, well, all noble ambitions.
Let's have goals. Sorry, yeah. Let's talk about
the show
sitcom, baby.
The sitcom. Well, this is like kind of an interesting style of sitcom because I think you described it as a workplace sitcom where it all takes place in the workplace for the most part. Yep. I think that, well, obviously, like The Office, for people know, it's was
The Office US, by the way. Unless you're talking about UK.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. God.
Oh, okay, sorry. Go on. You're being slow.
A British one and an American one, and we're gonna talk about the American one because there's things to talk about. They do a lot of that like dry humor I find in the second season, so it is very emblematic of the British one, but I think it does evolve a little bit further, and especially in the later seasons, I watched a lot of like essays and learned a lot about how they had to like kind of rehabilitate characters for to keep the series ongoing and keep things fresh, especially with characters like I think Michael Scott and like Dwight. They had to, I think, make them a little bit kinder, like soften them up for the audience a little bit, which I think is really interesting because I think Parks and Rec mainly do that as like their core style, is have that like softer, funnier.
Yeah, I think Parks and Rec, and this is probably the reason why I enjoyed it more, was like the characters, like the main ones, felt 100 times more likable from the start. Maybe that's just me. I liked that they were characters that like I felt like in some way I wanted to root for, even when I found them annoying. I'd also say, The Office. Yeah, the first couple seasons are definitely a lot like the UK one, where it's unbearable to watch because it's so cringe comedy. That's my opinion, at least. And I think a lot of people would agree. But yeah, they really shifted, I feel like, a little bit later. But I don't know.
Yeah, I would argue probably that like you're right. I think like Parks and Rec started off, at least in that first season, was very much like twin to The Office in its like style and characters. And I think you're right that the characters are more likable. But I think that especially hits in season 2, whereas I think in season 1 for Parks and Rec, they have a little bit more of that awkwardness that The Office.
Yeah. I'd say that anytime I felt like, I'll admit this, anytime I felt like Parks and Rec was playing it too close to The Office format, I didn't like Parks and Rec as much as like when I felt like it like sort of figured out itself as a show a little bit more. Okay. Like I know there's similar shows, but I think like in the first season, you're right, and even in some of the second season, they were still trying to figure out how to be as successful, I want to say, as like that, and
Yeah.
like figure out who they were. And so it definitely,
Well, I think
I
like
don't know.
in the making of it, they were originally going to make it like a spin-off of The Office, and so like
Yeah.
they did just basically copy the entire like style and format, and then they had to like form their own path. And I agree with you that I think that Parks and Rec did a really good job of making like its own way, and I think that the style that it goes for really suits it. And I think, I don't know if this is like a hot take, not really, but I think that the that like dryness and coldness, I think in The Office in later seasons when they go away from that and it starts being written a little bit more like Parks and Rec, I think that's to The Office's detriment, and I think the reverse is for Parks and Rec. I think when Parks and Rec goes away from that cold dryness and they get into that like wackier stuff, that's where it succeeds.
Yeah. Yeah, I realize I think like the two shows, now that you're describing it, and I've just realized this,
Okay.
I think it's just like what kind of like humor you're into almost. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like I enjoy I want to say Parks and Rec is softer in a lot of ways, and like it's got a really goofy, wacky humor, which both of them do. But I feel like if you're really into like the cringe comedy, then The Office is for you. And if you're into like characters you love to um, hate, at least for me, I feel like in The Office
Yeah.
there were a lot of characters where it's like you watch it and you watch it because you love to like watch characters who are kind of messed up, like
Yeah,
Michael Scott and
definitely.
Dwight and stuff.
Yeah, like when you said that the characters are likable and like, okay, I agree, but I don't think it makes the show bad. I think that the characters in The Office are for the most part very like unlikable, and I think The Office has to work. It's like a cool platform for them to start off with, of characters, just to like they can. It's interesting to see a show take like shitty characters, and I guess like Always Sunny kind of does this too, but like taking shitty characters and exploring character arcs from that perspective. Whereas I think Parks and Rec sometimes feels a bit to me more like New Girl in a style. It's very like character driven, and it's
You've
like
said exactly the correct thing, and only makes Parks and Rec a better show. Comparing it to the best sitcom maybe ever created, I don't understand the problem.
okay. Well, skirt back to our previous episode for my hot take.
Sorry,
But
continue.
yeah, no, I think different but comparable. I
Yeah.
think they do. I guess just like the character dynamics that take place in like a workplace sitcom are really interesting. That's probably what we're going to talk about a lot today.
Mhm.
Is comparing,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
the
also for both
relationships.
of them, they definitely. I think just generally in workplace sitcoms, you always have to. I feel like it's hard to do sometimes because you have to like find that line between like their colleagues, but you also have to make them friends in order for like you to be compelled by the storylines and like
Yeah,
stuff like that. So like both of the shows definitely play into that. Like they don't have lives outside of work. It feels like a lot of the time, like
yeah,
they just hang
it's
out with
like
their colleagues and
yeah.
that's it.
um,
Just not realistic. Yeah, I guess this goes in interest a little bit, and we kind of talked about it. But I feel like part of like the reason why you would pick one like Parks and Rec over The Office or The Office over Parks and Rec. So I feel like Parks and Rec, to me at least, is like a lot more of an uplifting sort of show. I feel like when I watch the characters, like I watch them sort of um, like it seems like they like enjoy what they're doing, or at least like they care about the people they're working with and stuff like that. And I feel like in The Office a lot of the time I'm just watching a bunch of people who generally dislike each other
yeah,
being forced to hang out together. And so I think like that's part of like why I struggle with watching it is I'm like I don't want to watch people who just don't like each other not do their jobs for a while, and then like I'm supposed to like I feel like I'm supposed to root for some of them, and I'm like I don't, because why would I?
well, yeah. Well, okay, I like rooting for The Office because I think that it's fun that you get to kind of like switch who you're rooting for that episode. Like everything's so contextual and no one's ever really like 100% in the right. And some of the things that people do are so like, they just do it like nonsensically. Like Dwight with the CPR segment where he just like cuts the face. Like that would it's hilarious. And then like you are on his side because you know Dwight doesn't like know any better. This is just who he is, and he thinks he's doing the right thing.
I think The
And he
Office
just gets
is
like
funny exclusively in like bits. Like if I watch a full season or a full episode of The
okay.
Office, I'm like, meh. But if you show me just like the highlights reel, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's funny. Whereas like when I watch Parks and Rec, I
Yeah.
like that I enjoy watching full episodes and full seasons.
I think I can agree with you. Like, I think the more I rewatch The Office, the less interested I am in like the character arcs, like long term, and like the relationships long term, and the more I like just watching individual episodes. But I feel like it adheres more to like it being a sitcom that way. Whereas I think Parks and Rec, like it's hard to just jump into episodes at any point. You definitely have to like commit.
I mean, I don't think you have to like hardcore commit, but okay. But fine. Yeah. I think
But like you
with
have to know like what's going on in those character lives because there are not like that is necessarily a bad thing, but there are like
yeah,
episode
to
arching.
some extent. I think it really like depends on like I don't think they have enough. I think their storylines, like their overarching ones, aren't like that like they're not that long. Like usually if like something's going on for multiple episodes, it's like a few episodes and then it's done and like they'll explain in every episode what's going on and why. Which is like most I think shows, like sitcom shows will do that.
But yeah, I do think they do different things with their formats. And I think
Yeah.
as well, like I'll give you that The Office's like I think like overarching plots are pretty bad
That.
at times, especially in the later seasons. Whereas I think episode to episode they're a lot better when they're like
Yeah. I
succinct
think
character moments.
yeah. I You mentioned this earlier and I'll give you this. I think without The Office, Parks and Rec wouldn't exist. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
archetype I think for a lot of workplace sitcoms, but like Seinfeld is the archetype for a lot of other sitcoms, and I don't think it's like the best one, you know? Like, I'm glad The
Yeah.
Office exists for this show to exist, but that doesn't mean that I think it's like good.
Okay, I guess that's
That's my
fair.
take.
It's
Okay.
definitely a dated show, but I think it'll be in this way, same way that like kind of like Seinfeld was. I think it will be like the staple of the genre going forward for like that point in time.
Yeah, and like
Where
Seinfeld, people in the future will watch it and be like, why did anyone enjoy this?
another interesting thing about The Office that I just kind of realized is that like really none of the actors from The Office. Okay, oh actually no, this ties back to another point I wanted to make. I think in The Office they do a lot better job of creating, which I know is like more in like their tone than it is with Parks and Rec, but I think they really commit to like creating this corporate America office atmosphere. I was reading somewhere that as preparation, all of like the actors would have to come in to film, but they would come in like 8 to 5, and regardless of when like filming started, they would have to like for an hour before they started shooting, like just do office things, like go around, like making photocopies, go to the drink cooler, like type on their desk, which I think is really cool.
What a
And
waste of fucking time.
it builds the ambiance. And I think leaning towards that, like,
What a waste of time.
you know,
They're just getting paid to do office stuff?
yeah, it's method acting that you
Jesus.
claim to do by eating
Um,
hickory sticks for dinner.
Whatever. Okay.
Um,
Anyways.
but they would come in, and I think that it like helps build the world a lot more than in the Parks and Rec does, because as you can see with the cast of The Office, it's almost like they were built into that role because like none of them really got famous after, except for like John Krasinski and Michael Scott. Like none of them were actors. They were all just cast for The Office to be office workers and to be average Americans. Whereas on Parks and Rec, it's just star fodder.
I mean, when they were initially cast, I don't think it was just all
Well, they
stars.
casted actually talented people and not people that would work in
Oh, I'm so sorry.
government.
They casted talented actors for their show. Okay.
But I think there is like a bit of like realism that works more with The Office than it does with Parks and Rec. Like the whole like mockumentary thing, I don't think it's necessary in Parks and Rec. I think it's like not part of the show and they just kind of did it and then had to continue doing it. Whereas in The Office, it's like the camera is a character and can like interact with different scenes and like lend a perspective to the audience that the characters don't, whereas they don't really do that in Parks and Rec. Likewise, they also, how they do things in The Office is very rarely are scenes set outside of the office. There's office events and like conferences or like after work socials, but they don't ever really follow characters home or like follow them on like a day in the life, whereas Parks and Rec, they just kind of exist everywhere, and that like documentary style feel kind of disappears from it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question which may be stupid, but I realized in my research I didn't watch anything other than the last couple episodes. Did they do it mockumentary style in Parks and Rec? They didn't, right?
Well, that's what I mean. They kind of do, and then they just give up on it.
Oh, they give up on it. I think that's okay with me.
They do like
okay, I was like 50-50. I was pretty sure they didn't. Mostly.
I think they give up on it. Definitely in the early seasons they have like the talking head scenes, but then they just kind of let it go. Which because to them they like adapted the show for what worked. But also, you know,
bodes well
Parks
for my
and Rec
research.
is like New Girl, and Parks and Rec has this like wacky sitcom style that we see, and The Office is kind of just like The Office. And there's nothing else really like it.
I have you know I'm bad at tropes. I never know what to call them.
I just make up the names. So when were they do this?
I have this trope when I initially wrote it down because I felt like the main similarities, at least at the start for The Office and Parks and Rec, were like the Michael Scott, Leslie Knope characters. So I had the trope of overinvested boss trope, ? I guess maybe more like adult child trope.
Yeah, actually adult child.
And I realized that adult child works perfectly because, and here's my take, Michael Scott is all the worst parts of a child, and Leslie Knope is all the fun parts of a child. You know, Michael Scott is like really temperamental and emotional and throws temper tantrums when he doesn't get what he wants, and Leslie Knope is like a kid hyped up on candy. Like, yeah, it can be annoying, but it's mostly just like excited and energetic and like fun. And that's my take on that trope.
It's kind of interesting because like I feel like they're like the same character except if like one's through like the female perspective and one's like the male perspective. Like Michael Scott's very much like stunted growth and doesn't know how to like interact with people emotionally and like understand that kind of stuff. And then Leslie Knope is like the opposite, like female portrayal of that, where it's like she's a little bit overbearing and like nagging and like overindulgent in like her friends, like planning like crazy elaborate parties and getting them crazy elaborate gifts for like nothing. So they're like, I think basically the same character, just one's in.
I think they're like, I do think they're both like the epitome of an adult child. Like they have like these very childlike aspects to them. I don't know if I would say it's like they're the same, like, but like flipped gender. Like I think they have like different aspects of what you think an overgrown child looks like, basically. Like I think you're right that they have different aspects of it, but I think it's specifically like just in this archetype of what you would view an overgrown child as, which is someone who like basically needs a lot of attention, and both of them have that, and then like the way they seek it out is just in different ways.
I like how they both do the thing, and I think Leslie as well, I think, changes in the second season. I don't remember exactly in what ways. Like I think she does get a little bit more capable and a little bit less passive. I want to say she becomes just like a little bit more eccentric, and I think for Michael Scott they have to kind of do that as well, where they give him like a much softer side. So like when he's being a dick, there's something you can use as like a crutch to
that pissed me off.
Still follow the character.
I feel like it pissed me off that they like kept okay, I'm a sucker. Let's just get right into that. You make me feel bad for a character. I'm gonna start rooting for them. But then as soon as they get their way, or as soon as Michael Scott gets his way, he goes back to being like a terrible dick. And I'm like,
it's so funny.
You tricked me again, you dirty, dirty horse. I didn't know where I was going with that, but I get so mad, and so I think that's like part of why I hated watching that. As I was like, I just have to skip your shit because I can't feel bad for you and then like be tricked.
I think that's a fair take, and I think a lot of people feel that way. For me, I think it makes Michael Scott like a much more nuanced and like layered character than most of the others we see in like either show. I think it gives him like a lot of that. Like I think he's a really empathetic character because like you see how quickly he like slips back in like the second he gets like the like kind of attention he wants. Like especially when he dates like Jan and he's kind of has been acting like a dick, but like, you know, he's like insecure, and then the second he gets like the girlfriend, he acts like more of a dick at the office, but then you see the other side of that where it's really his insecurities that come through, and he's basically in like this toxic, borderline abusive relationship where Jan can just take advantage of him because he is so insecure. And I love how they kind of like explore all these different aspects of this really crazy personality that he has, like this really different kind of way that he is.
I'm just gonna say this: I don't love that or even really like that. I don't really feel like I have that much to expand on specifically that aspect. Like, don't get me wrong, I like character depth.
It tires you?
But, like, it just exhausts me, and it's not, like, I don't find it fun to watch.
Well, I guess if you don't find it fun, you don't find it fun.
There's no more
I
to
like
say.
laughing at his misery.
I don't like seeing people unhappy.
I like cheering at his successes.
Maybe I'm just a really good person.
Well, I think it's fun to see him, like, kind of fall backwards, because, like, he is, like, a bad person for the most part. Like, he is messed up.
Then
I think it's just they do the groundwork. With him and Dwight, too, I feel like they kind of do the groundwork where you can empathize with him, but, like, you don't forgive him, and then slowly they become, like, a better person where you can start to, like, forget that they did all this terrible stuff, and they, like, improve on themselves.
Well,
and I think that that's really fun.
I'll say this. I don't think Michael Scott ever really becomes that much of a better person, but okay.
You don't think so?
No, I think he always just kind of sucks, and then he's not on the show.
I think he's like the best character on the show. Not necessarily the best person, but definitely the best character.
Sorry, you cut out.
Next to Kelly Kapoor. Oh, I said I think he's the best character. Next to Kelly Kapoor.
Kelly Kapoor, what a gal.
I know.
That's a character I did enjoy.
You would. She's the most Parks and Rec character on that show.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, Parks and Rec is good.
Okay.
It's funny.
Yeah. I like her. I mean, yeah. Okay. That was my big trope. And then the other trope I had, which I don't know if is this a trope? I just said workplace romance and how each show does it.
Oh, I also wrote down workplace romance.
Yeah. So
I think there's always something, like, this is the first thing I'll say about that. I think there's always something just kind of inherently creepy about a workplace romance. I think if you're going to have a successful one, it's always the exception and never the rule. I think, like, if someone tells me, oh, we met at work, I get a little bit sus immediately.
I think for me, because I know I'm watching a workplace TV show, I just assume there's gonna be a workplace romance. So
yeah.
I'm never like, oh, it's gonna be weird. I'm like, okay, so it's basically like watching a group of friends, except for they all work together. Okay, that's just like where my mindset goes to.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah.
Or I'd like watching The Office from the lens of like, no, like, imagine you're at work and this is happening. And it gets really weird. And I think it adds that extra level of funny. Whereas I think, well, you kind of said this before, like, I think Parks and Rec does do more of that, solidifying that they're like a friend group, quote, fam, or like slash family.
Well,
more than like coworkers.
This won't surprise you at all.
Yes.
I loved the workplace romances in The Office, and I absolutely.
Wait, all of
Oh wait,
them?
no, sorry, not The Office. Sorry, in Parks and Rec, and I
Oh, okay. I was like,
absolutely fucking hated watching Jim and Pam's relationship more than anything I've ever watched unfold.
I can agree with you on that. I don't like them.
Anyone who says that they enjoyed watching Jim and Pam get together is lying to your face. They're just
I
lying through
did when
their
I was a
teeth.
kid and I watched it when it first came out.
Whenever I watched
I
it for the
think
first
it.
time, well, the only time I watched The Office, I did not watch it
Oh, I
more
see.
than once. Whenever I watched it the first time, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
skipped like a lot of episodes and like scenes and stuff because I was like, I don't care. Like, you've beaten me down. I don't care.
Are you talking about like? So there's. I think there's an important distinction. There's like a before they get together and like the build up. Then there's like the after they get together. And to me, those people have very different feelings about
I
them.
would say, I'll be honest, this might be a hot take. I don't like them in either stage.
That's fine. I don't think I do either.
But I would say they're before in like season 1 and even in parts of season 2 is kind of cute and flirty, which I always enjoy.
Yeah.
And thereafter, I think like really late into the show, I enjoyed more than like a lot of their middle season stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think like I don't think they had a great relationship, and this is something I'll say about okay, even the most boring relationship in Parks and Rec, which I think was Anne and Chris, was more interesting to watch to me than Jim and Pam's relationship in The Office at any given moment.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I think yeah. I think I liked I'll say this for like the hot takes.
Okay,
But I'll say okay, so can I tell you my least favorite couple of Parks and Rec?
sure.
My least favorite couple of Parks and Rec I think is Andy and April.
Shut your stupid face hole.
They're so boring.
Don't talk to
It's
me.
it's the
Like,
same
no,
shit
literally,
every episode.
just leave.
It's the same shit.
I don't give a
He's
shit.
10 years older than her. It's Chris Pratt. Disgusting.
They're shut up.
I love Audrey Plaza.
I love them. I think how they did that relationship is probably one of the better ways that they did. I guess it was a workplace romance because they both vaguely worked they both worked really like, I feel like exterior jobs initially at the whatever government. Like she was an intern or whatever, and he just was the shoe shine guy until another job opened up because they liked him. But like I thought that was like a well done workplace relationship that had like, unlike Jim and Pam, their build up was actually interesting to me. Like
okay,
I enjoyed. Okay, I will say this: it is a little weird off the bat that I'm pretty sure she's like 17 or 18, and like the first, like she's really young in the first.
I
season.
wasn't gonna get held up on that. I just said it, but
I'll admit that like I think
yeah,
that like her
but
age in the first season is kind of weird, but I think like they basically brushed past that well enough for me to leave it in the past.
yeah.
And like I actually found watching them get together kind of fun, especially since there was no like, there wasn't ever really that long of a period to me where it was like, oh, like they don't know the other one has feelings. Like I feel like basically what happens is, and like after, I don't know exactly, it's like April's into him for a bit, and then Andy messes up, and then Andy just like is very open about being into her for a while, and I like that that's cute. Not like a, oh, I don't know, what if they reject me kind of thing. It's just like he's like, no, I want to be with you, and I think that's nice.
I think that that's cute. Here's the thing. I think that I much preferred Jim and Pam's build-up. I thought that it was interesting. I thought that it was emotional. I thought that's when those two characters were at their best, was season 1, season 2. And I think like there's a reason why everyone's Tinder profiles are, I'm looking for the Jim for my Pam. Like it was iconic. It was like the
anyone writes I'm looking for the Jim to my Pam in their profile, I'm immediately like swipe left. I don't want to talk to you. You probably suck. I'm like, absolutely not.
Agreed, but there's a reason why like they were so popular. People were like so invested in the romance. I think for my hold up with Andy and April, I think they're cute when Andy's pining after her. I think my issue with them is I feel like it's the same shtick all the time, and it gets old for me really fast. And I think very soon after they start dating / get married, April ages out of Andy for me. Like, I think April just becomes a much more like complicated, almost main character, and Andy can't keep up with that.
I feel like what I liked about their relationship is that it was very much like or to me, it felt very much like a B plot relationship. Like it wasn't the main one, and I enjoyed that because I felt like Jim and Pam suffered from being the A plot relationship instead of just like once they get together, like just sort of make them like a funny shtick every once in a while, which is what I like about April and Andy.
No,
is
I
like
agree.
you see like some build up. They have like their times to shine, and then like you sort of just like make them like a bit every now and again. And I do think April grows up, but I think part of what I liked about their relationship was that she has like, I think the reason why she's into him, and she like says this in one of the episodes, she's like, I don't want to be an adult. I think that's lame. And I feel like he's very childlike, and she's like, oh, I like that. Like, I don't have to worry about being boring and like an adult with him. Like, I can like it's just gonna be fun.
Like, I think that's fine, but I think that Andy also has to come to that conclusion, or he has to like, I don't know. He just, to me, sorry, let me rephrase this. I think Andy would also have to come to that conclusion with like a character arc that's similar in growth to like April's to a certain point. To me, I think they kind of what do you call it? Flanderize the Flanderization of
what?
Andy Dwyer. It's like a term when like I think it's from The Simpsons, and it's like I haven't watched The Simpsons, so I don't know. But it's like when a character has like this quirky thing that they do, and then slowly that becomes like their entire personality.
Okay,
and I think for me, Andy just gets dumber and dumber, and he kind of becomes like Kat from Victorious, and it's just like, this is a child. And then as April gets like smarter and like more mature, I feel like it's a weird balance, and it's like, is this your husband or is this your child?
I feel like they have enough sort of like sweet and like, I don't know, like not necessarily like deep in how you would see it in like a drama or like a different adult relationship, but enough like, I don't know, like meaningful relationship conversations and discussions with each other that I understand what they like about each other, and like I get why they are together, and I honestly feel more like sometimes I don't get why he's as into her. Not because I don't think I think she's a better character, to be clear, but sometimes I'm like, she just doesn't seem like she would be your type, and like it sometimes was weird to me that like he was so into her because she is like so negative, and like I don't know, she like doesn't like get excited by like very many things that I feel like he's into, but like at the same time I still think they're cute. I
like the opposites attract thing, and I think they do have like episodes kind of addressing that, where like they do like kind of like the Newlyweds Game, and like they have like most of their conflicts, it seems, in the relationship is like them just like not meshing on things. Like I think one of them is just like April just likes different music than Andy, and like Andy's like offended by that or something like that.
Yeah,
well, I think they do a bit of that. I think maybe like what you said is probably on par with what I'm feeling. Is like, I like when they're like a B plot relationship, they're a supporting relationship. I think what happens is like April becomes like an A plot character, and so it kind of drags the relationship with her. And I kind of wish that as April became more of a character, maybe they show less of Andy, or like when to me the relationship just doesn't keep up with the pace of the characters and the pace of the show. This might be like a hot take, but I think that once they did the episode where like Jim says his feelings to Pam and Pam says like no, I think that should have been the end of it. And I don't think they should have done the thing with like it's not Anne because Anne's from Parks and Rec, but
Rashida Jones.
Yeah, whoever she plays in The Office. That started to get a little bit tiring. Still kind of interesting. I was like, they can recover, and then it just all went downhill from there once they got together.
Yeah, I think my take was that I think they should have gotten together at like the end of the first season, basically, or like maybe at some point in the second season. I can't remember exactly how the episodes go, or like they shouldn't have gotten together. Like I think similar to you, like it's either like put them together at the end of like the first season, or like you know, early on in the second
Yeah.
season, or just like don't put them together and explain why like it was always
Yeah.
just gonna be like a flirtation ship.
The thing is like the will they won't they can only last for so long. And I feel like this is the case for every show until like the thing is like if there's like a will they won't they, there has to be like a solid reason why it's a won't they, and
Mm-hmm.
there just isn't. And like the like her having a fiance thing, you can kind of buy it in so long as she kind of rejects Jim and still seems like she's into her fiance. But once like Jim's on the other side of that and he has like the girlfriend, but they're clearly still into each other, and like Pam's single and like into him, it just gets weird to me and
Okay,
it
actually,
makes me not like them.
this is basically in my couple deep dives, so we're basically on this. But what I was gonna say is, it was really weird the way Jim and Pam were done in the sense of like the reason they didn't get together was because Pam had a fiance, which is fine, whatever. But like they seem to consistently throughout the show just show why Pam's fiance sucks, and then like
Yeah.
never show why she's with him. Like I feel like I never see an episode where I'm like, oh, okay, I get why you're staying loyal to him instead of like
Yeah.
breaking up with him. Like even if, okay, here's a fun way that it could have gone. So Jim and Pam, she leaves her fiance for Jim, but the way they keep the relationship like from like being like a real relationship yet is that like she realizes that it's like a lot to emotionally process to leave like a significant relationship that she left
Right,
and
yeah.
just start dating someone new, and then they have to like break up for a while so she can be on her own and like
Well,
he
I
can be
think
on
they
his own and
do
stuff.
do that.
But like
Like
I
I
feel
agree
like
with
they do
you.
that early on and just like get it like if you want to keep it fresh that way, because I feel like
Yeah.
it was so boring to just watch her be into him and her not like her fiance at all, and then like her reasonings for like not being with him were just, oh well, technically like I'm still engaged, and it's like, okay, but you just kind of hate him, it seems like.
Well, here's the thing with Pam. I really liked Pam's character arc season 1 through 3, like aside from the relationship thing. Like I think like you said, like none of the characters are like quote unquote like good people. Like, but I think Pam is not an exception. I know that like her and Jim are usually regarded as the straight characters, but I think there are also characters that are like incomplete or like unfulfilled, and they're like not evil people, but like bad people.
Yeah.
It's like they're not. And I think Pam's like that too because she's very like. Well, that's basically it. Is she's in a relationship with a guy who doesn't give a shit about her because of whatever girl reason. She's like insecure, doesn't think she's like deserving, doesn't like open her eyes to like new perspectives, isn't confident. And I think that that's fine. And I think that it's fine that her friendship with Jim maybe helps her understand that. And I know she says at the end of, she says at one point, I forget when it was, after breaking it off with Roy, that it's like, oh, well, I didn't break off my engagement for Jim. I broke it off for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, she kind of backpedals on that when she's like having her outburst in front of Jim, in front of all her coworkers. And this is what I mean. Like, no character is like good. Like, you can't expect the best friend. They're all gonna do shitty things. And Pam announces in front of like her entire company that like, oh, I called off my wedding for you. And I thought that kind of like deconstructed a lot of the work she had done. So I was okay with her kind of processing her emotions. And I think that also has to do with the fact that like the show is being filmed. Like it seems like they have pretty set rules that like the scenes can't take place outside of the office. So I understand that they can't necessarily like show as much of the gross as they maybe could otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there could have been more moment to pause in between, and they could have been more clear on that. I think it's when I think like Jim's reactions to things get weird. Like I think she's fine on her own, but I think the writers need to understand a little bit more in that like awkward season 2, season 3 phase where she's no longer with Roy, what her feelings are and like what she wants at this point in time.
Well,
And
she's
I
still
think that
with
gets
Roy in
muddled.
season 2. She's with him until the end of
Oh,
season
she's with
2.
him in season 2 or whatever the seasons after they break up.
Season 3 is when I think she breaks up with him, because I looked up their relationship timeline because I couldn't stand to watch any more footage of them trying to get together. So it's just Wikipedia.
Wait, when did they break up?
I think her and Roy break up at the end of season 2. or something, or like early season 3, or yeah, the end of season 2, and then Jim comes back and has like a girlfriend, and or like a thing with what's her name, and then
Yeah. But there's
that's
a
when
season.
that's when she's not with Jim or Roy, and then I think at one point in season 3 she gets back with Roy, and then they break up.
Oh yeah, they do get back together for a little bit.
I just think, okay, I totally get like, um, from the perspective of Pam being like an insecure person who's like staying with him because like she doesn't like have necessarily like the strength to like leave this shitty relationship. I understand that. I just felt like they didn't. I don't know. I didn't feel like they showed it that well, and I also didn't feel like I really felt bad for her to a certain extent. Like I was like, I could
Yeah, that's
sympathize
fair.
with you. I could sympathize with you for a certain amount of time, but my sympathy runs out and frustration kicks in, and I no longer give two shits about what's going on. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
you need to just like, if you're unhappy, figure out a way to fix this already. Like I don't want to keep
Yeah.
watching
I
this
agree
run
with
in
you. Yeah.
circles. And
Like
I think,
she
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, Karen. Her name's
Karen.
Karen. Thanks.
Rashida Jones. Wait, her name's Karen? I would never have guessed that.
I was gonna say Kelly, but then I remembered that Kelly
is a
is a
Kelly.
character in The Office already.
That's such a like a ugly name. Sorry to all the Karens.
I don't know. This isn't really a hot take. Writers shouldn't shy away from like having a main couple sort of like not get together right away because they're not like right for each other, like getting together and then breaking up, but not for like a reason of like, oh, they did something really bad. Just like we need to grow a lot more if we're gonna be together because like this
You
isn't
just
working out.
love New Girl.
No, I do, but I
No,
don't
I
think
agree.
like I like in shows when like they show me why a relationship didn't work, which yeah they do in that show, but like
Yeah.
I think they do it in lots of shows where like they show me why this relationship isn't working, but it's not just like, oh, he cheated on me this one time and now I have to learn to trust him. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it didn't work right now. I wasn't ready to be in that kind of a relationship, and now I am.
It's like writers don't understand that like the reason why Pam doesn't go for Jim at the start isn't because she has a fiance. It's because she doesn't want to break up with someone. Like she doesn't want to realize that she's not into someone, break up with them, and then go for someone actually decent that she stands a chance with. Like that's the character arc. The character arc isn't just her calling off the wedding.
I also think there's a certain amount of fear of like with Jim, he sees a very specific side to her. He knows her through the like image that she presents in the office, and like they have this relationship, and I think there is a genuine fear on her part that they don't show as much of like the fact that like, oh, what if like in the real world this doesn't work, like it's just flirty and fun and that's fine, and they're like, I feel like they just say, oh no, she has a fiance, and I'm like, that's not a good enough reason for me.
It just makes them look really shitty. No, what I think would have been a fun arc for, instead of doing that whole like messy Jim moves away and comes back with like, sorry, Karen, and they have that like awkward, I don't know, love triangle, but except they're dating, so it's not really a love triangle. I think it should have been more like Jim comes back or never leaves or whatever and realizes that, and like when he realizes that Pam called off the wedding, maybe he feels a little bit of animosity towards her, and maybe Pam feels a little bit of animosity towards Jim because he's in it. And I think that they should have had like an enemies to, like they should have had a little bit of tension with each other. I think that could have been fun. Oh, that's okay. I think I had one of the tropes I had. We talked about bosses. I thought I was gonna say how I really liked how, which I guess comes to hand in hand with, I think like The Office was really emblematic of like corporate America, and it was supposed to be kind of like a commentary or like reflection of like day-to-day life. I think they did a really good job of that, and one of the ways I think they did a good job of that is by subverting kind of the boss stereotype, which I think they do with almost every boss character in the show up and towards the end where shit gets weird. But I think like it was really fun to see, which I think was really different for the time, like Michael Scott be this like weird, like simpy, but also like really entitled character that he is, and it's like kind of a weird take on like the just like nagging, like overbearing boss that you see in like other stuff.
Most of the bosses in The Office, I would say, don't feel like they're bosses. Like it goes from, what's his name? I want to say it's like Andy who
Yeah.
comes in and
He
he's like
becomes manager.
the manager for a bit, and it's like he sort of has a similar vibe to Michael Scott, where like you don't feel like he's in charge, like you really don't feel
Yeah,
like
you know he's not
and
in
he's
charge.
hilarious too, because well, I think he kind of is an archetype of like he's not. I don't think like yeah, he's an archetype of like a rich boss where it's like he just disappears for a bit. Like remember, I think he just leaves for a while and goes on a sailing trip. Or, like he just drops like oh sorry I got vacation and just like leaves.
I'm just gonna leave.
And I feel like that is kind of like a joke on like rich bosses who just like disappear to go on their yachts.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Parks and Rec does like I feel like Leslie is like the same sort of where like she's not the like usual boss character you might see. Like she's very like I don't know, like she's very like you know she's in charge, but it doesn't always feel like she's in charge. Like it feels like she doesn't present like the like confident like naggy sort of like this is what we're doing, this is what's happening boss. She's like she desperately wants everyone else to be like really into the work. I feel like she's a good example of like I don't know why like I envision like what a millennial like sort of like group environment. They're like no, like we're all here contributing, we're all doing it. And it's like no we're not.
And how are you doing today? I think I think like her flaw thing is like she tries to be friends with everyone to her detriment, and it's like, well, you're their boss, you can't be their friend. But I think like maybe I would say maybe like The Office is definitely more of like the workplace commentary on like The Office, and I think the Parks and Rec show is a bit more of a political commentary. Like I think they go into more like the government and like electoral offices, and I think that's where their I don't know like philosophy show core lies, is like exploring that, whereas The Office I think is more exploring like more small scale privatized. Well, yeah, that's all I have for like tropes. I think yeah, we talked a little bit about characters. Do you have a favorite couple? Those are my discussion questions. In The Office or Parks and Rec? Should we do the opposites or should we do?
Why don't I do like Parks and Rec and you do The Office and we talk about it? Do you want to do that way?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it probably makes more sense.
Well, my favorite couple in Parks and Rec was probably April and Andy, even though we already discussed them.
Okay, that was fine.
I like a couple that like feels like they just work for some reason that no one really understands. It just kind of worked. But I also will say that in terms of like a couple that I was more emotionally invested in, I was pretty emotionally invested in Ben and Leslie's relationship. Like I felt like
that's my favorite couple of Parks and Rec. I don't know why Andy and April made it on top of them, but they're fucking dreamy. That couple.
I felt like
they're a hot power couple.
Okay, hear me out. I felt like April and Andy were like for the show because it was a sitcom, right? So like I wanted to see things that were funny. They like fit that vibe for me, and they work, and they were really funny to watch. And they were like really stable. I love a stable couple. I love a background couple that's just like they're together and it works, and I don't have to worry about it too much. Whereas like I felt like with Ben and Leslie, it was an emotional journey that I enjoyed, but like there was like a lot of parts where like there. And what I liked about Parks and Rec, and we talked about this, the annoying thing about Jim and Pam is when Parks and Rec didn't have Ben and Leslie together, there was like a genuine reason that wasn't just like.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I like that the won't they was actually like a won't they.
It's like, oh, we can't be together. Like, I'm your boss, and you're running for like mayor or like
and then like their ultimate and then like the conclusion of that arc was like she had to choose her career or her boyfriend, like, and it worked out. But
yeah, and I think
that made sense. And then like all they do is show how cute they are together, and it's so cute.
Well, I like watching them together because. Unlike Jim and Pam, I think when Ben and Leslie face a problem, they really feel like a team, and it feels like they're genuinely working together to try to figure out this issue. Like, I just watched the finale recently, to prepare myself, and I thought it was really sweet when they were like talking about how they both got offered to run for like the I always forget what they're called. The person in charge of Indiana. Yeah, it's some sort of formal government job. Anyways,
depends on the season. Yeah.
I enjoyed that they were both sort of supporting each other and being like, well, these are the pros, these are the cons, and then like ultimately what happened was Ben was like, no, this has been your dream for like your whole life. Like, you do this. Like, I'm still a city councilor. I can still like work it and do what I love. Like,
you do this. He had already given up stuff like his career for her, so she was kind of
I feel like they both sort of
paying it forward.
I feel like they take turns helping each other out with their career, which I enjoy. I thought
they have just a healthy, like, cute, like, I don't know, the relationship's really cute. I love them so much. I had a hard time picking my favorite couple because I do really like them from Parks and Rec.
They're really sweet, but for some reason they weren't my favorite. I don't know why, but like they're all really cute. I enjoy them. I like watching those two couples in conjunction with each other because it's like, oh, they're two really sweet and very different couples.
I wrote as like my second favorite. Actually, I'll talk about this later. Okay. I like them a lot, and I think like.
Wait, who?
Okay, me saying that I like Leslie and Adam Scott a lot. What's his name? Ben. I don't know. Maybe you can probably guess who my favorite couple is from The Office, which is Michael and Holly. I think are the cutest.
Jesus Christ.
They're the best couple. I love them.
You want to hear I feel like this is kind of a hot take.
Wait, I had a second runner-up,
couple from The Office.
I know who's going to be here, and I think it's my runner-up.
I wonder.
It's
Kelly and Ryan.
Yeah. Honestly,
I thought they were hilarious.
I almost put them first.
I didn't like basically any of the couples in The Office, except for the ones that I thought were extraordinarily toxic.
Oh my god, Kelly and Ryan are so fucking good.
Also,
they're so funny. I can't say that they're like cute and healthy in the same way that Leslie and Ben are, but
they're funny. Also, okay, this is a side note question. Do you also get a lot of like TikToks and news reports that are just like fan theories about the fact that BJ Novak might be Mindy Kaling's baby daddy? Because I get a lot of those.
Oh, I think they're like. I read Mindy Kaling's book. So, like, that's also adds to me, but I like them as a couple on the show, is they're, like, just really close friends in real life.
I just think
they make a lot of jokes about we're kind of dating, but not. Like, I think it's that vibe of, like, they're like, we're really close and definitely cross a lot of lines. Are we sleeping together? Probably not, but.
I just think it's really
Is it
funny.
off the table? Neither of us know.
I feel like once or twice a week, I'll, like, open, like, a TikTok or, like, a news article and be like, you tell me that BJ Novak isn't Mindy Kaling's baby daddy. I dare you. And I'm like,
Sorry, also, I totally missed the main point of that. Is Mindy Kaling pregnant?
She has a kid, and she hasn't said who the father is.
She has a kid? Okay.
I think she has maybe more than one. Oh, okay.
Good for her. Oh my god.
None of this is a lie. I think, she definitely has a kid. But I'm pretty sure there's, like, some secrecy surrounding who the dad is. I feel like, realistically, that's probably because she just either, like, got a surrogate or, like, he's not someone well known. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I assume if it was, like...
I feel like you couldn't actually keep a secret that, like... I feel like you couldn't keep that a secret, but anyways.
So they have a child together, so that's also cute. They also have a child together in the show, I'm pretty sure. And
no, in the show, okay, this is my favorite part of their relationship. Where in the show, she has a baby with another man, and then she just leaves the baby and the man.
Yeah, couple goals, man. That's love you can trust. She knew. She didn't hesitate for a second.
She was like, "Yeah,
Ryan for life."
Yeah. Anyways, they're my favorite my favorite Office couple.
A little less to talk about, I guess. A little.
I like Angela and Dwight a lot too because they were really toxic. and fun.
They're okay.
I like that Angela just like was cheating on Andy for a really long time with Dwight. I thought that was funny as a plot point because they were both terrible.
Yeah. I don't think that Dwight and Angela should have gotten married. I don't think they should have like ended up together.
I think
they're both too weird.
Oh, see, I think they made sense like getting married because I was like, yeah, they're both like psychopaths. They should like marry each other and plan world domination.
I think that like while Dwight was going through his like later seasons character arcs, one of the character arcs should have been that him kind of like realizing he can do better than Angela.
Oh,
because Angela's a dick.
Attention, so
Angela just straight up has like an affair.
Yeah, with him.
Yeah, she's still like
hilarious
adulteress. Doesn't
I
matter
that was,
if you're the one she's.
I was like, this is one of the few affair plot lines I am into.
It was funny though. It's funny watching Andy just get
just duped.
Totally, yeah. Totally snaked.
Anyways, yeah, okay.
I do like Michael and Holly though, because I think again there's a good amount of like won't they. I think it's really fun that Michael spends the first seasons just hating Toby because he works in HR, and then his new replacement is just this hot girl that he falls in love with. I love how cringy and PDA they are in the workplace. I think that's hilarious. I love how they don't know. I love how like there's one of those couples that you know they're really good together, but just everyone else hates them. Like they can't be in like a group setting. They're just good with each other, and they're both just so nerdy, and they get along so well. And I think they just both really deserve each other in like a good way. Like she's his happy ending.
He doesn't deserve a happy ending.
He does. He's, like you said, a little baby trapped in a man's body.
They both suck, so I'm fine that they're together, but I didn't like watching them.
That's kind of it, I feel like. They're both just mirrors.
I will say this. I do think it's funny that she's the head of HR and is just, like, having a very inappropriate relationship with...
Yeah.
Michael.
Which is something yeah.
That's pretty messed up.
Sleeping with the boss. Like, come to me with your complaints. Okay, can I say? I don't know.
Yeah, go for it. No, you go.
I really liked Mark Brandanowitz in the way that he served Leslie's arc, and as well as like how I guess this is kind of a trope. I feel like it was a bit of a subversion of like the love triangle trope with like him asking out Anne when Leslie's into him, and then Anne having to like ask Leslie for like permission. And I thought it was really nice how kind of like chill that was, and kind of like how it was served to propel Leslie into kind of getting over it and realizing that this guy's kind of the skis and not worth her time.
Yeah, I liked that he wasn't there for too long also. Like, I liked his arc on the show. But I also think Leslie and Mark had a fun little friendship that I enjoyed.
I don't know. I think they had she was just really into him and he was annoyed by her.
Like, I think, no, because I think when he left, or maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought like,
yeah.
Because I thought his relationship with Anne, he like became a little bit less of a dick.
Oh, and they did like date for like a whole time.
Yeah, and then she just dumped him because she wasn't into him, I think. And then, I think by the time he left, like he and Leslie had sort of like a nice friendship. Like, it wasn't anything too special, but I thought it was nice.
Yeah, because I think it's like she had kind of gotten over him by that point.
Yeah.
I think he did a good job, and I think he was a good character to have as like almost like an audience insert, because I feel like he was very emblematic of like The Office, and I feel like they made him in season 1 to be kind of like the Jim. And then it just didn't work for the tone of the show at all, because the show was not the same tone as The Office, and they just got rid of him.
I think I read somewhere that he was supposed to be kind of like the Jim character, but like in a show like Parks and Rec, you really don't need a Jim character.
Yeah, there's no straight man.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, this isn't a relationship, but it is, isn't it? Let's talk about the iconic friendship, Tom and Donna.
Oh, I also had a discussion question, which was, who's your favorite friendship? Tom and Donna, so cute. But do they have a friendship?
Yeah, they treat yourself.
They do a treat yourself there.
I do think they have like a really funny friendship, because it's just like based in both of them being very materialistic. Like, their entire
Yeah.
friendship is just them being like, these people are whack, and talking about how much they like things. Like, that is most of their friendship.
I think they're like the epitome of like a workplace friend.
Yeah.
It's like you find a couple things that you have in common, and it's enough to like. It's like, oh, you also watch the Kardashians every week? Let's talk about this. Like, I feel like they kind of have that, and like they trust each other's opinions. But would they hang out on their own? Probably not.
Yeah, I think they're like, no, I think they're like that workplace friend who like you'd invite to like a party if you were throwing a party, or like you might like hang out with every once in a while, but like you don't want to like spend all your time with them. But I feel like
Yeah.
both characters understand that about each other.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
like
they
a
both kind of are
unique
characters
bond.
where it's like their workplace friends are not their only friends.
I think they have a really cute friendship.
But
I also like on The Office. I think the best friendship on The Office. I was torn between. Okay, I think Dwight and Jim have the best friendship on The Office.
I actually did like their friendship. I won't be mad about that statement.
I thought it was really cute. Like I think like a lot of people talk about how Jim like kind of treated Dwight like shit in like the early episodes, which I can agree with. But I think the fact that they ended up like committing to this arc of them becoming friends and like Jim ending up as well, I guess not really because Michael Scott comes back, but like Dwight asked Jim to be his best man. I think it kind of makes you look back and it's kind of like they are kind of friends in the sense that like they both really they're both so into the pranks. I think Dwight gets pissed by it, but I think it also like entertains him a lot, and I think he kind of thrives off of it.
I think they have also a good workplace friendship where it's like,
Yeah.
I think by the end they sort of enjoy or like what they provided for each other. Like,
Yeah.
I do think
I think Dwight needed to be bullied a little bit, and I think Jim needed to feel awkward a little bit sometimes.
I think, yeah, I liked their friendship. I think in general, I didn't remember that many strong friendship dynamics from The Office that I enjoyed as much as Parks and Rec. But I think they did have one that like also did that thing I like where it showed some character growth between both of them.
Yeah. Sometimes there's character
and like,
growth.
I don't know how to put it. I feel like Jim was a little bit, I feel like grew up a little bit and realized he actually did care about Dwight, and I feel like Dwight also stopped being as much of a dick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think they were good for each other.
But all in all,
and that eventually evolved into friendship.
Yeah. But all in all, I didn't love as many of the. I don't think I loved as many of the as many of the Office friendships or dynamics.
They just don't have as many.
They just didn't like show me why I should care about a lot of the things, but
yeah, they're a little less focused.
Yeah, this isn't a friendship or relationship, just a character I want to really like explain that I love a lot is Ron Swanson.
I was wondering, sometimes I'm like, oh, are we even going to mention Ron Swanson?
He is, I think, a stroke of pure genius as a character. He's like,
no, he's amazing.
Somehow he and Leslie are best friends, like, whether or not he'll admit it, they clearly are. But like, and he's like also a healthy friend to her, unlike Anne, who I feel like just enables her a lot of the time. But like he's also like, I don't know, he's really like funny. He's like the grumpy old dude, but like he comes through for you when you need him. And I feel like that's such a good character to have.
I think him and Leslie's friendship is my favorite friendship of Parks and Rec.
They have a really like sweet, genuine friendship that
like you believe that they're friends. Like
I like that they bond over their love of breakfast food, and then that's how they like relate, and then everything else they're so different, but like they respect each other genuinely, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just really like him as a character. I like that he's the one who's like, government is ineffective, government sucks, and then just like is like in charge of all of them. Like he's all of their boss.
Yeah. And it's such a fun foil to Leslie as well.
Yeah.
Like in their friendship and in like certain plot.
Yeah, like I like that. Like when Leslie finds out that like he didn't want to hire her, like he tried to get her fired multiple times.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, hey, but you're still here, so clearly it didn't work.
He's very much like, oh, like you're too good for this job.
Yeah.
He's
like,
sweet.
yeah, he's like both like her friend and like a protective sort of like brother or father. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are.
And she is to him too. Like she protects him from his ex-wives and like. Sorry, Luke's suggesting that we talk about some side characters like John and Ralphio or Daryl from the warehouse. I almost brought up Daryl when we were talking about like relationships. Like, what do you think about Daryl and Kelly? And I was just, I don't know. I guess they don't really do much, but I think they're like a fun relationship because of how it ends so casually. Like, I think it serves the show very well, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think it works for both of those characters.
Did they have a relationship? I don't remember.
Yeah, they did for a bit. Not really like they did kind of like off screen. Like it's just kind of mentioned a couple times that they did.
Okay.
And then this is when I think Ryan is like CEO of Dunder Mifflin or some shit. Like he's like in charge, and he would come visit the branch, and then she would get like really handsy with him and like get really the PDA, and then to try and like make him jealous. But then when he comes back, he tries to like seduce her again, which obviously takes 2 seconds. And he goes, "You need to like break up with Daryl." And he's kind of like fishing for drama. And she goes, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna send the text. And they've been dating for like a year at this point. Like I think she's met his daughter. And she sends him like a text being like, "I have to break up with you. Like I'm still in love with Ryan." And he responds with like thumbs up emoji. And then Ryan gets like, and then Ryan's just like annoyed. She's like, "Oh my god, that was so easy. This is amazing. Like we're meant to be together." And then Ryan's like, "Fuck, I just wanted the drama."
Yeah, that sounds funny. I don't remember their relationship at all, but
Daryl's a fun character. I think he's also like quite a talented like musician and comedian, and I think he was a bit, which I think a lot of the side characters were on both shows. Like I guess Sean Ralphio kind of was as well. They did a good job of keeping them as like B characters.
I like John Ralphio. I just like Ben Schwartz a lot. I think he's really funny. I like have watched his like long form improv comedy special because I think he's really funny. But yeah, John Ralphio I liked as a character a lot. I liked him and Mona Lisa. Me and my sister like to this day do that to our parents. We'll just pretend we're them and go, "Money, please."
They're so funny. Oh my god, I love them.
Like I just think like doing something like that's just like they have like good catchphrases that I really enjoyed. I liked him and Tom's like business partnership a lot, especially since like I felt like he's like that kid in any group project who contributes nothing and is just like there, and like if you're in it it's frustrating, but watching it is fucking hilarious.
Like somehow has like the reins on it.
Yeah, somehow he has like the loudest voice, but he contributes absolutely nothing to the project. And him and Tom, like Tom just like consistently wants him to be part of his endeavors.
I think he's a good foil for Tom. He makes like Tom has to learn how to say no and like be responsible.
Yeah,
John Ralphio.
And John Ralphio is also, I think, he's a bad friend to Tom, but he's like also not like a terrible friend. I feel like he never ditches him.
He's a good friend. He's a bad business partner.
I think he can at times be a bad friend because he's a bit selfish. That's true. But I think he's like he's a better friend than others. I feel like so. But yeah, I like him. And I liked Mona Lisa. I liked when Mona Lisa and Tom dated, and like it was like one episode or like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And like she's just like anytime he tries to like break up with her or fire her, she's like, "I'm gonna fucking burn this place to the ground."
She's like abusive.
She's just like insane. I thought that was fun. I also like what's her name? The like reporter lady in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Shauna Malway tweet.
It was Agatha all along actress.
She was really funny just because she was like there basically, I feel like, for all the male characters to reject. And then for Leslie.
Oh, no, wait. Sorry, I'm thinking of the campaign manager. You're talking about the drunk talk show host or the news anchor.
No, I'm thinking about the reporter lady who like is there like Leslie just pitches like really terrible
Oh,
headlines
yeah.
to
Okay,
her.
never mind.
And
I
then
was
like
far
she
off.
goes
Yeah.
for like Mark, and Mark's like, oh, I'm into Anne, and she goes for Ben, and Ben's like, oh, I'm into Leslie, and then she goes
Yeah.
for Chris, and I think she does date him for a little bit, and then he's like, actually, I'm in love with Anne.
Which is kind of boring.
Like, I just think she's good as a character to like basically have all the characters
Yeah.
shit on.
I like how it seems like in Parks and Rec, the rule of thumb is like if you're not like a wacky, crazy person, you don't get the time of day. You're not like useful to the plot. Like if you're like a
Yeah.
normal person, you're not gonna get any screen time, and you're gonna probably be the butt of a joke.
And I feel like her character is also pretty self-aware about that. Like, it's like not like specifically that, but it's very like, why do I even bother in this place? Like, it's just like it's terrible all the time.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think yeah, as far as side characters go, I think Parks and Rec has I think they have the license to have a lot more crazy ones than The Office does. Um, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we should move on probably to I don't know the finales. I didn't really have like I don't know if you want to talk about like exactly the finales.
Okay, this doesn't bode well for my Parks and Rec is superior to The Office thing, but I didn't really love the Parks and Rec final finale, like the 2-part finale. Like, I liked the last season, like, as much as I like most shows last seasons, where it's like, oh, like, probably last season wasn't necessary, but it happened, so yeah. But I think the 2-part finale was weird because it was just like basically showing all the separate characters and like what they do in their future in like little clips. And I was like, oh, this doesn't really like work with like the way that the show is set up, where it feels like it is very like I don't know, like I feel like Parks and Rec does have a lot more overarching like themes, and so like you can kind of show us throughout the last season like what's going on with all the characters and where they end. You don't need to like randomly just have a clip. It's like watching just like a little YouTube clip about where each your character is now, and I feel like that's literally what they could have done. Is just made like a little YouTube thing. It's like, you want to know where your favorite Parks and Rec characters ended up? Watch this clip.
I also feel like no one ever really wants to know where their favorite characters are now.
Yeah.
Like I hate like reunion stuff. I think like it can be done tastefully, but like for the most part, I hate when they bring back iconic characters like so far down the line, which I don't remember how far from the show being aired that like Parks and Rec do, but I feel like I like when finales just leave it open to interpretation a little bit. Like it should be wrapped up enough where like I kind of have a general sense.
Yeah, like I feel like what I did like about it is that there was definitely closure and it was satisfying. And watching it, I was like, oh, good. No one can come back, make this show, like, make a revival or a reunion episode of this show and, like, fuck it up. Like, no one can come back and say, oh, actually, this didn't happen. Like, they all got a happy ending in some way or another. Well, I mean, I think Jerry dies at the end, but he was old, so. Like, I think they all got, like, you saw very firmly what happens in their lives, and that's what happens. And you don't need, like, to question it, which I enjoy. I will say I was mad that April and Andy had a kid. Because I feel like a lot of their relationship was them talking about how they don't want kids. And then randomly at the end, Andy does want... Well, like, it's not that I don't... Sorry, it's not that I think it's out of character for Andy to have wanted a kid. I don't even think it would have been crazy if, like, they had a kid at some point, but I felt like the way they did it was really weird. And I also feel like they're not the characters where you look at them and are like, yes, you will be good parents.
I think that's, like, also what tainted why I thought maybe they weren't a great couple. Why I felt that, like, Andy looks significantly more immature is that, like, they do end up with a kid in the end. So it's like, well, you haven't, like... But you should not be in charge of another living being based on what they've showed me you're capable of processing in your brain, because this is ridiculous. And like same thing for April, which I feel like she like regresses when she's with Andy versus when she's with like Leslie, where she's like kind of she's kind of being like her best self. I don't know. Are they parent material? They could barely look after their dog.
I mean, I think like part of it is also like I remember in one episode they had like a random discussion where April's like, yeah, and maybe eventually we'll adopt, like, 80-year-old twins or whatever, and that will be our life. And I was like, yeah, that's about as weird as I feel like your relationship is, so I thought it was weird they had kids. I feel like the best way for me to be okay with them having kids is just like if April accidentally was pregnant or something. She's like, well, I
I think
guess.
she wasn't she?
Nope.
Oh, did they? Oh, they planned it. Okay.
They discussed it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they like were talking about it in one episode, and then they cut to a year later, and she's giving birth. So I assume, because I would have been like fine with it if it was something that like out of nowhere, April's like, oh, I'm pregnant, and they're just like, ah, fuck it, let's do this. I feel like that would have been in character, and like it wasn't anything, but it was just kind of like a weird thing where I was like, I don't know, I'm okay, because like also, you know, not everyone has to have kids.
Yeah.
It's weird that was forced on me. That's the only thing that I really, really didn't like about the finale. The rest of it, I didn't mind it. Like, I enjoyed that Anne and Chris came back to, like, be in the finale for, like, a hot minute. I thought it was funny, the joke about how Anne and Leslie want their kids to date.
Yeah.
And there was, like, I don't know, a cuteness to it, but yeah, I didn't love it, but I also didn't like the Office finale. I mean, I didn't like most of The Office, but I didn't like the finale either.
I really liked the Office finale, and I think like it does a really good job. Like I won't argue that like any of the last seasons of The Office are like in any way good or decent. I know that they're really terrible, but I think like the season finale stands out among that. I think it just like does a good job of wrapping up the character arcs. Like they're just bringing Michael Scott back at that point, I think really sold it on me. And like Dwight asking Jim to be his best man, like it just solidified arcs. And it's not necessarily like an ending, but it's like it's what's the best. I don't know. It's like the best way they could have ended it, I thought. I didn't like when they showed. Okay, I like that they brought back like the documentary thing. I like that that kind of became a point. I think that they could have saved that plot beat for just like a moment in the finale, because I didn't like seeing like all this like fourth wall breaking, like them talking about the documentary and stuff. I think they should have kept it. If they want to do the documentary thing, they should have kept it as if we're also watching the documentary.
Oh, I liked that they did the documentary thing. I thought it was funny because it's like, this is ridiculous. Like it was just so like ridiculous at this point that like the documentary was still going on and that they like
okay, that's fair.
We're doing this. So I like that. I also like it did feel like both finales to me felt like closure. Like I was like, okay, and we're done.
Yeah.
And we're out. Which is like all you can ask for from a finale, really. But I didn't particularly love either of them. But I at least enjoyed the last few seasons of Parks and Rec, and I did not enjoy like.
That's fair. I think Parks and Rec improved as it went on, and I think The Office got worse as it went on.
Should we just
let's go into the hot takes?
Let's dive into our hot takes. I mean, I've said a few of them. Like, I'm not a Jim and Pam stan.
Yeah. I think the Jim and Pam thing is one of those things where like people were really into it, and then it's one of those internet things where like, oh, people are really into it, so now there's gonna be a wave of people who are just like really against it, and there's a wave of people back that are like, I don't know, back and forth.
I like that. I like that I have in my note for my hot take about Jim and Pam that if you have the "I'm looking for the Pam to my Jim" on your dating profile, nobody likes you.
Oh, it's so cringe. Everyone who's listening that has that, take off.
Take it down.
Okay, do you want to hear I have some hot takes about Parks and Rec. I don't really have hot takes about The Office. None of them are hot. They're all just...
Yeah, my only other hot take was, and I said this, that I was rooting for Ryan and Kelly. That was my only other hot take about The Office, really.
So I didn't really care for Anne and Chris together. And they should have stayed broken up. But who I did care for was, I think, Anne and Tom together.
Oh my god.
I thought they were so good together.
What's wrong with you?
Twist.
Are you okay? Like mentally?
They're perfect for each other.
Jesus Christ.
Perfect for each other. They're both superficial. They're both kind of shallow. They're both kind of materialistic. And they have really cute chemistry, and they think both of each other are really funny. Like Tom just always thinks Anne's really hot, and they had really good chemistry when they dated.
I was fine with
Like,
you
the reason I
liking
broke
The
up was
Office,
stupid. It was something
but
like,
I can't be your friend anymore. This is over. I'll talk to you
the mass is
exclusively on
really
the
curious.
podcast
They'll
now.
come to their senses, and they will
I will say
see.
this. I thought Anne was super annoying. Luke, you
He's
betray!
gonna cut it out.
Betrayer!
Your entire response to that, and my response would be the only one. The whole episode would just be me saying that.
Luke has betrayed me. I can't be friends with either of you. Anyways, I did think Anne was annoying. I didn't love her as a character. I was fine with most of her storylines. Like, I didn't think she had many interesting ones. I thought her most interesting one was when she decides to have a baby, and then when she and Chris are together. Mostly because I like Chris as a character, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch your stuff. I also think she and Leslie had a bad friendship.
You have a bad
Like, it wasn't.
Ooh, interesting. Say more.
I would say that I think Anne is like too passive as like a friend and a person, and Leslie is too like in your face, and so their friendship doesn't mesh well together. Because like Leslie's like inserting herself in Anne's life all the time, and Anne like doesn't stand up for herself a lot of the time, and even when she does, it just comes off mean. And she's like, no, sorry, thank you for doing all this nice stuff for me. And I'm like, no, if I had a friend like Leslie who was like, get this job, work here with me, do this, like date this guy, do this, blah, 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 I'd be like, fuck off. Let me live my life. She's a bad friend. I think Leslie, whether or not they mean to do this, emotionally manipulates the people in her life into doing things for her and uses like her generosity and like gifts and stuff to like make people want to like help her and be there for her. And like I don't think it's necessarily intentional or from a malicious place, but she does do that.
Yeah, I think in her mind it's like a negotiate, like friendships are like a negotiation, which I think is like kind of sad. But I agree with you, especially in the early seasons. She like can't respect any boundaries. She can't like she comes from a very like selfish perspective, I find, which probably has to do with like what you said as her being like a child almost emotionally. That really comes through. I think as it progresses, like, okay, I think Anne is also a very passive person who definitely benefited from Leslie's friendship in the long run. If you had just told me like season 3, I would have been like, Anne, get it. Or season 1, I would have been like, Anne, get the fuck out. Like, this is a lot. But Anne was also like with Andy in season 1. And Leslie, I think, kind of drags her out of that. Like, she made Anne feel like she was a part of something. She made Anne feel like a little bit more confident. She like encouraged her to go out on dates and like really get to know herself. So I think like while yes, it was, I think it was like a setup for a toxic relationship. But I think as they both went through like their character arcs, they met in the middle in a really nice way. Like they both compromised their characters for each other in like the best case scenario.
Like, I do think Anne benefited from the friendship, but I think that just really, I don't know. I just think maybe I dislike them both individually. Like, I like Leslie all in all, but I found that, like, she struggles with respecting other people's boundaries and, like, even when they are, like, clearly laid out in front of her, she doesn't respect people, like, it feels like she doesn't respect the people she claims to love, which I don't think is good.
Yeah.
And then I think Anne is just like, you shouldn't need a friend to be forcing you into like doing the things you want to do or that are good. Like, I get like, you know, being like I get to some extent being in a bad place or like not being able to like necessarily say what you want or what you need all the time. But it feels like she genuinely just needs Leslie to force her to do anything. Yeah. So, yeah, those were my biggest, hottest takes. So if you have any more, other than your crazy, stupid, dumb bitch and theory.
And Team Tom.
Other than that crazy, stupid, dumb theory, what else you got?
Well, you're not going to like, oh, sorry, I wrote this down. You're not going to like it. well, we already talked about a little bit about April and Andy. But as
Mhm.
I saw April, in my opinion, starting to mature out of the relationship with Andy and become kind of a different person than she was, how I felt she was in seasons like 1 through 3 or 4 or whatever, I thought they should have gotten divorced.
Don't talk to me ever again. Just that's my
Just
general
end it
feeling.
there. Well, I feel like I've successfully converted you into liking The Office.
I
So
feel
I'm
like
going to
you
take
have.
that home with me.
I feel
I
like
feel
you've
good about
not
myself.
converted me into liking The Office if that was your intention.
The Office has its faults. I still think it has many faults. I still think it's S tier.
The Office sucks. Parks and Rec is amazing.
Parks
I
and Rec
think.
is just New Girl and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they're all the same. They're
Okay.
fine. All pizza is good. Some pizza is better than other pizza. And
Yeah, and The
yours is a
Office is like a
calzone. I don't know.
pizza.
I was trying to tie that
The
together.
Office is like a pizza that you would put like pineapple and anchovies and mushrooms and all the
Like a
shitty things
deluxe,
on.
tasty, like
Yeah, like you'd put everything you
melt
hate
in your
on that
mouth, like.
pizza and you wouldn't enjoy it. But like,
And Parks and Rec is the calzone.
it's not a calzone.
He
Although
talks about calzone a lot for something that's not a calzone.
I will say I feel bad for Ben a lot because I feel like they just bully him for like his interests. The Office
Yeah.
is like I don't know. It's got like a couple of nice things on it, but it's not that fancy.
I like
Probably
the
like
cringe humor. It's hard to get right, and they just get it so right. Tots, I think, is one of my favorite episodes. But I know, like, just like pineapple and anchovies on pizza, it's an acquired taste. So maybe you all just
yeah.
need to acquire your taste a little bit more. And come message me when
People say acquired taste when something's bad, but they like it. So
it's nuanced. It's not bad.
yeah, I think this is the friendship ending episode.
Okay. See you never.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed, listeners, viewers, whoever you are out there.
Yeah. Let us know what your favorite show is and why. Maybe who your favorite couples are and why. I know we didn't mention a couple. Like, when runner-ups for best, I think we're like Phyllis and Vance from Vance Refrigeration. I also really liked the Sweetums factory gold digger and her old man in a wheelchair. They were pretty adorable. So pretty comparable relationships. But yeah, let us know
Yeah.
what your thoughts are. I know these are hot topics with even hotter takes. I'm sure we didn't get to all of them, but probably all of them.
I think we said
A
everything that
couple
was
of like
important.
irrelevant ones.